Good evening and welcome to the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting for September 19th. Bienvenue aux réunions de Conseil pour le 19 septembre. I'll call the meeting to order and ask Councillor Restoule for the land acknowledgement this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we meet today, I would like to take a moment to recognize the importance of the land on which we are gathered. The municipality of West Nipissing respectfully acknowledges that we are located on the homelands of the Anishinaabe peoples, on the traditional territory of the Nipissing, Temagami, and Okies First Nations, covered by the Robinson-Huron Treaty. We honor and recognize their historical connection to the land and value their significant contributions in shaping and strengthening our communities. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility towards reconciliation and improving our understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their culture.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would take any declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of Council held on September the 19th, 2023 be approved as presented.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. We have no addendum this evening, so with that, we will open the meeting with our delegations and petitions section. We're pleased this evening to welcome a delegation from the Nipissing Violence Against Women Coordinating Committee to talk a little bit about intimate partner violence. Presenting this evening, I would like to introduce Samantha Potagoni and Jennifer Cameron. Thank you.
So, good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Samantha Botagoni. I am a nurse at the North Bay Indigenous Hub. I work with children, moms, and in sexual health.
And I'm Jennifer Cameron, and I'm also a nurse. I'm the program leader and educator for the sexual assault domestic violence program at the North Bay Regional Health Center. So I work with all genders and all ages. So we're here tonight to talk about intimate partner violence as an epidemic, and we're requesting all different municipalities, I can't pronounce that word, for intimate partner violence to be declared a public health crisis. Next slide, please. So Harold Culleton, Anastasia Kulzik, and Natalie Waterdam of Renfrew County were killed on the same day by their former intimate partner. An inquest into their deaths was held in June of 2022. Of the 86 recommendations for change issued by the jury as part of this inquest, the first is that the Ontario government formally declare intimate partner violence an epidemic. This recommendation is directly repeated in the 2023 report issued by the Mass Casualty Commission following the Nova Scotia mass shooting inquiry. Next slide, please. So intimate partner violence, or IPV, or domestic violence, as some of you may have heard, is the use of behavior to gain control and power over a current or former spouse, dating, or sexual partner. Intimate partner violence does not appear the same way in every relationship. It may include physical violence, sexual violence, criminal harassment or stalking, threats of physical or sexual violence, reproduction, coercion, coercive control, spiritual abuse, cyber violence, emotional and financial abuse, or psychological abuse. Intimate partner violence is not a series of isolated incidents, but a pattern of abusive behavior. Next slide, please. Victims and abusers can be of any age, gender, sexual orientation, or religion, and have any educational background or income. While victims do not fit a mold, women disproportionately experience intimate partner violence as the victim, with men the abuser. Over 1/3 of women in Canada aged 15 years and older will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. Research also shows that women often experience intimate partner violence with greater frequency and severity, example being strangled, assaulted, or threatened with a weapon. Due to the devastating impacts of colonization, intimate partner violence against Indigenous women is significantly higher, 6 out of 10 women, compared to non-Indigenous women. Research also shows that sexual minority women, trans women, as well as women with disabilities experience intimate partner violence at a likelihood of more than 1 in 2 women. Intimate partner violence is preventable, but for some women, it will be a death sentence. Approximately every 6 days, a woman is killed in Canada by a current or previous intimate partner. Next slide. For those that do survive, there are numerous harms that come with intimate partner violence. For example, intimate partner violence is a leading cause of homelessness for women and their children. Intimate partner violence is also associated with numerous physical and mental conditions, such as substance misuse, food insecurity, human trafficking, and difficulty keeping a job. Children exposed to intimate partner violence often experience adverse outcomes, which may continue into adulthood, like some high-risk behaviors, like delinquency and substance misuse, and increased likelihood of entering the juvenile system, chronic health conditions, and mental health challenges. Those exposed to intimate partner violence as children are also more likely to become involved in a violent, intimate relationship themselves as victims or perpetrators. Children's exposure to intimate partner violence is devastating, not uncommon. In 2018, intimate partner violence was considered the primary form of child maltreatment in Ontario, making nearly half, about 45%, of all sustained investigations. Sorry about that. While intimate partner violence is often hidden behind closed doors, the consequences are devastating and costly, ultimately affecting every member of society. The Department of Justice of Canada conducted a study that looked at the cost of spousal violence incidents that occurred in 2009 alone. For clarification, the study included folks who were married, common law, separated or divorced, and did not include the cost of intimate partner violence stemming from dating or sexual partnerships. Findings provided a conservative estimate that spousal violence has an annual economic impact of $7.4 billion. At the municipal level, intimate partner violence contributes to an unsafe community, an increase in homelessness, decreased police and ambulance capacity, additional needs for social housing, and added pressures on the healthcare system and social services. Next slide, please.
Okay, so at a local level, these numbers were pulled from the Nipissing District Victim Services. They received over 475 calls for service for intimate partner violence in the year of 2022. During this period, Victim Services supported 400 women, IPV victims, as well as 39 children who were harmed or witnessed the intimate partner violence. In addition, Victim Services responded to sexual violence incidences involving 90 female victims. The North Bay Police Service had approximately 1,200 domestic-related calls for service in 2022, which is consistent with 3 to 4 domestic violence-related calls each day. While the data shared provides insight into the prevalence of IPV in our community and beyond, it is important to note that IPV remains underreported, and therefore these numbers reflect only a portion of the violence that takes place. I was going to read a couple of case studies that were provided to us, but I think what we were talking about before this meeting is a little more, hits more home, close to home. So my colleague works at the North Bay Regional Health Center in the sexual assault, domestic violence. This past month, they saw 4 strangulations of women. Strangulations can be fatal not only in the moment, but leading up to 2 weeks after the fact. People don't know that. Right now, Jennifer and another person are doing a great job in educating the people because strangulation is fatal. And then there was 2 cases of women who were pregnant. Pregnancy puts women at higher risk of intimate partner violence. So it's just, before doing this work, I thought pregnancy was a sacred, vulnerable time, but it does put women at higher risk for things like intimate partner violence. So tonight you will be voting on whether to declare intimate partner violence an epidemic. We hope you follow in the footsteps of the over 35 municipalities in Ontario that have already passed a similar motion. Declaring IPV an epidemic will help increase awareness of the problem locally. It may spark conversations about IPV and perhaps make it easier for survivors to come forward. The more members of our community who understand the cost and the severe impact of IPV, the more we will be prepared to strengthen efforts to prevent IPV, protect and support victims when IPV takes place, hold perpetrators accountable, and initiate measures to end the cycle of violence. For survivors to leave unsafe situations, they need sufficient access to appropriate community support, counseling and mental health services, legal services, safe and affordable housings, including shelters, income support, and childcare. Before COVID-19, social services in the region were already strained, and COVID-19 has added more pressure. Action around IPV at the local level can ignite long-lasting change. We need more system-level support, maintain adequate funding, policies and programs that effectively address the root causes of violence, and look at safety holistically, stronger laws and law enforcement, and greater resources for relevant sectors that promote trauma-informed, survivor-centered, anti-racist, culturally competent, and equitable care with an intersectional perspective. While many of these may fall outside of your jurisdiction, working collaboratively as a community and jointly advocating for increased resources can save lives. It is for this reason that I urge you to also consider integrating intimate partner violence into the community safety and well-being plan, which aligns with the recommendation number 10 of the Renfrew County Inquest. Everyone deserves to live life free of violence and oppression. Urgent action is needed to end the cycle of this violence and trauma. Thank you. And then I believe there are resources at the end if you want to see them.
Thank you very much, Samantha and Jennifer. Sorry, I had to cheat there. Thank you very much for your presentation. It is an issue that touches many people. We are fortunate that in our community we have the Horizon Women's Center that does act as a shelter, and I believe that many a good portion of the residents and clients there come from intimate partner violence, and not all of them, but quite a few. So we're very lucky to have that resource in our community. I will open the floor to quite any questions our members may have of you at this time. Councillor Pellerin.
Madam Mayor, I'm just curious, do you know the percentage of substance abuse and opioids contributes to this?
I don't know an exact number, but it definitely impacts a different altered level of, like, their mental state will definitely impact that. So with the increase of the opioid epidemic, it will also, everything kind of goes hand in hand.
Thank you. Are there, I'll just ask a couple of questions, and mostly just for us as resources, as members of our community. What are the ways as individuals people can help, either if somebody is a past victim or if they suspect that somebody is in a relationship that is intimate partner violence? What are the things that people should look for as far as behaviors that might indicate? Obviously, like you said, most of it goes on behind closed doors, and so to be able to kind of spot some of the outward signs is helpful, and then how people go about helping others obtain resources to help themselves.
I think for helping, like say this is your neighbor, just letting them know that you're there if they ever want to talk. They always say with statistics, it takes about 7 incidents of intimate partner violence before they'll leave their spouse. It takes a lot of courage you might find that your neighbors being quite isolated. They never get to speak for themselves. Their partner's always with them when they're going out into the community. You may see some unexplained bruising. They might say they just tripped and fell, but survivors tend to cover the bruising, or the perpetrator hits somewhere. You won't see any bruising.
Any other questions from my council? Okay, with that, I will have the clerk read in the resolution and we will vote on that.
It is moved by Councillor Paladin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Whereas the jury that adjudicated the Carol Culleton, Anastasia Kuzik, and Natalie Warmerdam inquest, the Renfrew inquest, issued 86 recommendations to the province of Ontario on intimate partner violence. And whereas recommendation number 1 of the inquest is for the province of Ontario to declare intimate partner violence as an epidemic. And whereas every 6 days in Canada, a woman is killed by her intimate partner. And whereas on any given night, over 6,000 women and children sleep in shelters because it is not safe for them at home. And whereas each year, over 40,000 arrests result from domestic violence, accounting for about 12% of all violent crime in Canada. And whereas over 1 in 3 women in Canada aged 15 years and older will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And whereas the cost of violence against women costs the national justice system, social assistance budgets, and municipal budgets millions of dollars per year. And whereas intimate partner violence is preventable. And whereas at a municipal level, intimate partner violence contributes to an unsafe community, an increase in homelessness, decreased police and ambulance capacity, additional needs for social housing, and added pressures on the healthcare system and social services. And whereas in 2022, Victim Services of Nipissing District received 475 calls for service for intimate partner violence and supported 400 female IPV victims, as well as 39 children who were harmed or witnessed IPV. And whereas in 2022, the Children's Aid Society had 146 investigations open for child exposure to domestic violence, which accounts for 13.1% of their total call volume for the year. And whereas 400 survivors of intimate partner violence accessed supports offered by Community Counseling Centre of Nipissing in 2022. And whereas in 2022, 201 or 31% of admissions to the North Bay Jail had an active domestic violence alert and 7.8% had an active sex offender charge. Be it therefore resolved that West Nipissing, the municipality of West Nipissing, recognizes the issues of violence against women and girls in West Nipissing as a serious and health and wellness of local families, is committed to engaging with community partners to educate and support our residents about the seriousness and long-term danger of violence in our communities, and declares in accordance with recommendation number 1 of the Renfrew inquest that intimate partner violence and violence against women are an epidemic, and be it further resolved that the municipality integrate IPV into its community safety and well-being plan, which aligns with recommendation number 10 of the Renfrew County jury recommendations. And be it further resolved that this resolution be circulated to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Charmaine Williams, Associate Minister of Women's Social and Economic Opportunity, the Honourable Parm Gill, Minister of Red Tape Reduction, and Vic Fidelli, MPP. And be it further resolved that this resolution be circulated to the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, the the Ontario Provincial Police Detachment in West Nipissing, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities.
I'd just like to propose one amendment, and that is that John Vantoff was not mentioned. So because we don't have Vic Fidelli as our member of parliament here, it's John Vantoff. It's a different riding. So I guess I'm making a motion to amend the resolution. If I can get a seconder on that. Councillor Restu, all in favor of the amendment? Thank you. And all in favor of the resolution? Carried. Thank you. Thank you again for your presentation. We will actually be having a meeting of our community safety and well-being plan, and that is the note that I made here for myself, is to bring that forward as an amendment on that plan when we do meet, and obviously that's in the resolution. So we will look at doing that. Thank you very much for your time this evening and for the work that your organization is doing. So we'll move to section 5 in our committee of the whole section. We have 4 different committees with items on them this evening, so quite a few things to get through. To start, we will be going to Planning Committee, and I will pass the floor to, the chair to Councillor Tessier, who's the chair for Planning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The short-term rental accommodation bylaw, there's an information update that will be provided at the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on September 12th. The committee reviewed a report prepared by staff along with a draft bylaw for regulation of the short-term rental accommodation in West Nipissing, which have been attached to the agenda. Now, I can pass it to Mrs. Ducharme if you want to provide additional information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just a very brief update to advise and let council know of what the next steps were. And council had, through its term plan, had indicated this was one of the pillars to get this regulation in place. As the chair had indicated, there was a brief discussion at the Planning Advisory Committee, and the Planning Advisory Committee did endorse moving forward with the public consultation portion of this. So I did meet actually with communication staff this morning to work on a proposed online portal questionnaire, and that should be going live the first week of October with an anticipated public meeting date. The third week of October is what we're shooting for. So I guess at the time the bylaw will be published on the website. It's already there in the agenda tonight for anybody who wants to take a look at it and start getting the questions or their comments in order. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Ducharme. Any questions or comments? Councilor Garnier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Addition to that, also was mentioned that the Appendix C in regards to licensing fees, if we can get example of that, and also human resources costs to manage that program, because it will be time consuming, whoever's going to be taking care of that file in regards to collecting those licensing fees and so on. So that was also mentioned at the meeting on September 12th also. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll pass the chair back to Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, next, 5.2, we have the Social Services and Health Committee. I'll pass the chair to Councillor Westall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item under Social Services and Health Committee, and that's homelessness. And it's an issue that was brought forward by Councillor Tessier. So I open the floor for her to provide some comments and background.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the group started back in February called No More Tears, which are involved with helping the homeless in the streets. They also help with outreach and wellness, so they can every day, Mondays through Fridays, we have groups that go out during the day and night outreach to check on the vulnerable and the homeless. We've also established during the outreach care packages that we provide, food items, and if they need any other items like clothing, tents, we provide assistance that way as well. We have partnerships with the church for clothing, and also we've established a soup kitchen, just started in July with the Our Lady of Sorrows, which we provide every second Wednesday opposite to the food bank, some lunch like soups and whatnot, and they can come and help themselves and take, it's a service that's a takeout. And also we help also the vulnerable, so anyone who is financially in need can come and have some of those as well. And in the information package, we provided the breakdown of our days, and we noticed that homelessness, we have maybe, I'm just going by numbers here, approximately 5 women and 7 men that are in the streets homeless without any shelters. So we heard concerns about with winter coming also that we would like to get assistance as to where they can be sheltered, and through the group partnerships with other organizations to provide support. We know support is available in North Bay, but sometimes they need to travel, they may not have the means or the communication. So help is needed to support the homeless.
Thanks for that info. I guess I'll open the floor to questions from any council members. I know we did, as Councillor Tessier mentioned, we did receive information within our package. Some of it around the coordinated access Nipissing, some of the ways that they provide access points and triage, assessment, matching individuals with services, and follow-up. So, and also on that sheet that we received here is some of the access points that individuals are able to provide or get in contact to seek services that they may need. So open the floor. Councillor Rebar.
Thank you, Councillor Bristol and see. My question would be, I guess similar to what you mentioned, would be if there is any possibility of finding some sort of warming center before winter hits and before those cold days start to come around, similar to how we just spoke at the last meeting about the cooling center for people who are vulnerable. So I do believe that that would be a good idea, where the municipality could maybe find somewhere that's safe just for those really severe nights, and that would be an easy way, I think, of helping the homeless in our community. And I commend everyone here and who's involved in the program No More Tears, of that group who's doing all this work, because that is some good, honest work, and I really commend that. Thank you.
Mr. Barble.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's very clearly a need. It's very clearly new, and probably not, but a new visible West Nipissing issue. And under that, under that guise, certainly we have to come up with a made in West Nipissing solution. Municipalities, as was mentioned in the delegate by Her Worship, were required to provide a safety and well-being plan. And in that, there are a bunch of community partners that are either local and or district-wide. And I think that, well, not I think, we are actually going to be uniting and assembling that group with this topic in mind, so that we can have information on a solution to a variety of issues surrounding homelessness, and obviously the component of providing care and resources for extreme cold weather events and extreme warm weather events, or other needs that they may have. So at this point, it is something that we're looking into. Her Worship has taken the lead last week and has reached out to the members, the social service agencies, the schools, the other caregiver agencies, and we will be coming together to, because it isn't just the municipality. We have expertise and people that deal in that realm or close to that realm. And I do believe that one of the, without being accusatory, I do believe there is a general feeling that we need certain agencies to have a more active presence in West Nipissing. And so we are going to be calling those people into the room, and we're going to be having some very honest conversations. And from that, hopefully we'll be able to come up with a draft plan. So for a timeline for those folks, I know it gets cold now. We're unfortunately looking at probably middle of October to look at that. So in the interim, if there's anything in the wayside, we will be reaching out to those individuals, such as our heat issue. We do have some resources that we can be aware of and at least check on individuals in need in our community. I recall the Fils of Adu in Sudbury, where there was, they called them red shirts, and it's very much like the organization that we're dealing with, and it was a formalized organization that would go and check on and provide, and there was a home. So there is those opportunities for the municipality with its partner agencies to look at, to see how we can be providing assistance, or what partner agency should be providing assistance to this new group. So that's really all we can say right now, and we don't have all of the answers, obviously, to a very complicated issue, but we certainly share the concern. We certainly see it, and we see it all over, not just in West Nipissing, but throughout North America, and it is something that we have to tackle on a macro basis, but we also need a West Nipissing solution. So that's all I can tell you, Mr. Chair, is that the process is underway, but prior to us inventing the wheel, when there are possibly more intelligent people out there that could provide this municipality some assistance, we want to pull them together and have some good, hard conversations about that. And so Mayor Rochelle has already initiated it, and we will be working at it.
Thank you for those comments. Any other questions from
I'll
members
just
of council?
speak briefly. Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Barbeau said a lot of the things kind of in my notes here. We've been talking about the implementation group for the community safety and wellbeing plan since our term plan. We had a lot of other things to kind of get behind as we started our term. And it has been a priority. So the partners in the community have been contacted. And as far as we can tell, we should be having a meeting in the first couple of weeks of October. We don't have a set date. And additionally, on August 5th, I participated in a DSAB stakeholder session. That was for board members and heads of council for the municipalities outside of North Bay that are served by DSAB. And the specific topic of that session was the homelessness system review. And that lasted for about an hour. They had consultants kind of gathering input from stakeholders, because the needs of the communities outside the North Bay area can be very different from North Bay. We are in a circumstance where, because of the geography and the demographics of Northern Ontario, there is a regional service delivery model for a lot of the services that we rely on. And that, ranges from healthcare to varying kinds of social services to even, having to go elsewhere to shop for specialized goods or whatever. It's just part of the makeup of being in a small town in Northern Ontario. Something as routine as childbirth no longer happens in our community. Our residents travel to North Bay to have children. We travel to North Bay or Sudbury for all kinds of specialized services, and that's a big part of the reality of the way that the various levels of government fund this region. So, we have been successful. We have a lot of really great community partners. I think we have a lot of great resources in the community overall that are serving all kinds of populations. The Feed Isabel, that's, I think a little less, the Feed Isabel, the food bank, the different firefighters associations. We have faith-based groups like the Pentecostal Church and their clothing room, and Our Lady of Sorrows, who has their food pantry. And so a lot of times municipalities of our size and our location, it really is kind of, it is the community groups that step up and fill the gaps that are left by the funding model that we're tied to. And that doesn't mean we don't keep working to get better services and such here. And then just in closing, the information for coordinated access NIPISing is on the councillor's desk and was included in the package. And I think it's really important that that people who are in need, who are in crisis, are referred to the resources that are available. Because it's not, if you call your member of council, there's not really anything within our scope right now that we can do to help. But through the Canadian Mental Health Association and this coordinated access NIPISing, the services that are available to our residents through DSAB and other organizations are listed there along with telephone numbers. Pass it back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any other questions or comments? Yeah. I'm sorry, Councillor Tessie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The wellness, the community safety and wellness being planned, the advisory committee, is that limited to the current list that's there, or can a member from this organization, No More Tears, be involved in the meetings as well, or is that open?
It's generally
Vice Chair.
Madam Mayor?
well.
Well, through you, I think what happens is that there's a core group such as the police, such as schools, such as hospitals, such as homes for the aged, such as social services, public health. But there are, depending on the, and I must say, Councillor Tessier, that this is a brand new plan and a brand new initiative. So I think that the core group of government funded people, in terms of the people with the resources, get together and then, depending on the subject matter, would reach out to various organizations and groups that have a vested interest in that. So I can't speak for the group. There's a misnomer or there's a misperception that it's the municipalities group, but it really is a partnership with all of the individuals that were there. There are groups such as Lippy in North Bay who have done wonderful things in this community. We provide shelter when we were forced to have to close unsanctioned places where people were staying. And so to answer you, no, at this point, but that doesn't mean to say, depending on the subject matter, if they call in individuals for information or resource, that they wouldn't do that. But at this time, we would get together as a group. We would discuss this as our first issue. And then, as you heard in the previous, with the delegation, certainly we also want to have a discussion about many other issues that affect the safety and well-being of our community as well. And depending on what those issues are, there might be a need to call in a variety of other groups. But at this point, I think that the public sector government agencies that are formed will come together, and then we'll take it from there. And should that not meet the needs, then we'll move from there. Councillor Casey.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'll share a couple of comments as well, but I just want to make sure you might want to share, has a chance to. I appreciate everything that's been shared by Madam Mayor, Councillor Tessie, and the CEO. At the table at DSAB as well, there's been some discussions on this, and we as a new council are kind of picking up the baton from last council. We're all learning our positions and where we sit at different organizations that are partners with the municipality, and I know I've had some discussions there and just really trying to encourage a not, North Bay centric approach to too many initiatives, and that we're out there and we're contributing and we have issues as well that need to be addressed, such as this one that we're talking about tonight. I know one of the items that we talked about that was mentioned by Councillor Tessier was some of the cold weather situations. And I know I've learned so far that during the pandemic, there was opportunity for, they call it overflow, where if these warming stations or centers or, housing shelters that they have in place become full, there's opportunities to gain, shelter in local hotels or motels or whatnot. But part of that is the partnership with those private businesses. And I know they've had some challenges with identifying willing partners, I'll say, going a couple of years back in terms of having rooms identified that we can access for our community members. But it is something that they're revisiting again. We had brought that up in the spring and they're part of the process. I'm not sure if it was shared at the meeting that took place, but that's something that's moving forward. And also, just to make sure that we're getting our share here, because like our CEO mentioned, it's not a new issue, but it's really a growing issue, and it's really been magnified more since the pandemic happened. I know when a number of councillors went down to London for the AMO conference, the third day, the whole morning was just focused on homelessness across the province. Lots of good discussion there. There's lots of strategies that are being developed. Part of that too is having partners like the provincial government to support some of these initiatives that are going to be developed, because everything comes with a cost, and we need to make sure that they're, helping out too because of the growth. I mean, just in London, we had some numbers from Councillor Tessier, but the City of London mentioned that before the pandemic, they had about 200 people who they were on the by name list as identifying as homeless. And after the pandemic, or a couple of years towards the end of the pandemic, they were over 2,000. So 10 times the amount of people within the City of London. And I know we're experiencing something similar, not at that level, but if you kind of look at our population base and theirs, I bet you it's probably pretty close in terms of the percentages of individuals. So it's a big issue. It's a complex issue. It's something that we need to tackle, but getting information like this and working with our partners that exist and setting up new meetings to develop new strategies, I think is going to be a good positive step forward. And having these meetings before the cold gets here is important. So I just wanted to share those comments and looking forward to the individuals here tonight. Thank you for your support that you provide to those who need help within our community. And, we're going to be working towards this as the CEO and the mayor mentioned. So just wanted to share those words. If there's not any other comments, then I will turn it back to Madam Mayor and close that part of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. 5.3, we move on to our Public Works Committee. And for that, I will pass the chair to Councilor Don.
Madam Mayor, we've got two items under public work: the level of service for policy for winter maintenance, and then our public works manager, Monsieur Lignon, will go through the updated capital project through public works. So what I'd like to do is go through the policy to start with items as quickly as we can to see if there's any questions as we go through it, and if Monsieur Lignon has anything to share or to add to those comments, I think that would be a good process. So I'll open it up. If we go to item number 1 under winter response and weather monitoring, just wondering if anybody had any questions. None. I had one question, which was in regards to municipal highway, which wasn't actually defined in the definition. But after a discussion with Monsieur Lignon, he identified that will be or will be under road. Can you correct me? Either roadway or road authority, Monsieur Lignon?
So in this section, we would change highways to road, and then your road is defined. Roadway is also defined, but roadway is the entire road allowance. Road is the travel portion.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Tessier.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The winter response weather monitoring, you indicate that the hours between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. There's no maintenance during that time, well, not as a general rule. But there's a lot of people that do leave their house around 5:30 to go to work outside Sudbury North Bay, and also buses and whatnot. I find that not having the roads cleared before people leave to work could cause delays and also intervene in services that they offer at their work. So clients, like the hospitals, if the nurse cannot get to her shift, then that offsets their work caring for the care that they need for the people at the hospital. So I know when I moved back here, there was a bus route at our road, so we were travel to Sudbury, so the roads were cleared. And then in the last, I don't know, 6 years or so, whenever the 9 to 4 was removed, that's where, when we left, we had a small car, and then we had the snow flying in the windshield. Like the amount of snow sometimes is, it's hard to get out of the driveways or to get to the highway, and then the highways are clear. So for the safety of the individuals, I think the 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. should be revisited, or something done to implement that the roads are cleared prior to people leaving.
I'll take it. So just so you're aware, 6 years ago, actually, I would suggest that I've been around long, and we're governed by a few things. So we, as you indicate, or as is indicated in the document, and as one of your questions raised to me that you can feel free to raise again, we meet and exceed, actually, we exceed our minimum maintenance standards. In our collective bargaining, work that is done after regular shifts is considered overtime. So we manage that kind of judiciously. We have, in the last several years, I'm going to say at least 10, received compliance with the union in our new bargaining agreements that they're willing to go out at 4. The issues that we have, and the second thing I would argue is that we have data and we have metrics, and we do deploy on winter events that are absolutely crazy or at risk to public health and safety. We also work with, in terms of trying to schedule our runs or with respect to what gets done. We do work with our bus companies to manage the way the runs are handled. I would suggest to you, though, that catching the snow before it falls is probably an exaggeration, but having standards that are like a class 4 or a class 3 road or a class 2 road, such as Front Street or whatever, is extremely costly, and would probably add, I would conservatively guess, $500,000 to the budget to have that kind of work. The other thing, Councillor Tessier, there's also legislation that says how long truck drivers are able to work, and so all of this is factored into the scheduling that is offered. So what the 9 to 4 window is in general has been the case since you've been here, at least. It has always been the case. Nothing has changed. This is just to formalize what it is.
Take that.
Maybe, I think CVOR, hours of service for our drivers is probably the driver for the 9 to 5. And from a risk management approach, typically drivers from the hours of midnight to 4 are on the decline. We do still have them out there. I do agree. But the issue is if we deploy at, say, 11 p.m., we're sometimes ahead of the storm, and then by the end of their route, it's now 7 a.m. And where the first road they did at 11 now has 6 inches of snow, and we can't get to it. So now you have your entire day, drivers that are traveling on this 6 inches of snow. So there's a little bit of a balancing act. Am I saying we get it perfect every time? Absolutely not. I can recall last year and probably the year before where we had that heavy snowfall, and at midnight there was probably 10 inches of snow, but at no time were we outside of our minimum maintenance standard. We still met and exceeded the minimum maintenance standard. So I don't know if that helps explain. I mean, if we had adequate staff, we could roll 2 shifts. That would be the ultimate. Then you would never see these situations happen. But unfortunately, our drivers can only drive 13 hours in a 24-hour period, and that's typically one deployment. So we have to really be careful with that.
Any other questions? Councillor Tacey, is that good? Any other question? Good. Okay, anyone else?
Again, this is a council policy. This is a draft. So, feel free to, this isn't written in. Sorry.
Councillor Tacey asked me a few questions prior to, and if she'd like to ask, just to answer the questions, are there routes? We don't really run our routes by ward. We run them by area. And so we have a field area, and they have runs that they deal with a catchment, a geographic area, including River Valley. All of Ward 6 would be out of the field area, let's say, for the most part. The Verner area would do some of Ward 6, but they do mostly going to the south. And then the Sturgeon area does the urban area, and they go kind of to Crystal Falls and kind of the south end of Clear Lake kind of thing. That's a generalization, but it really, we don't look at wards per se. We look at runs and how they handle the runs. They do reverse certain runs. I know that for a fact because I'm in your ward, and sometimes, they might actually do a reverse kind of run, but they kind of get, and that's where they work with the bus companies to try and ensure that they get the roads cleared as well as they can, so that there's trying to minimize the days off for the kids. The other question is, how long does it take to do a run? The general runs take about 8 to 9 hours to kind of do, but that is also weather dependent. Obviously, it takes a lot longer when you have heavy snow.
Just so for the field yard, it takes each yard takes about 8 to 9 hours to complete.
They all have, so field would have how many runs how many vehicles are out in field? 3?
3.
Yeah. And so they go out, one goes, leaves field and goes east, I guess, and 2 leave and start heading out my way and your way and every, heading that way kind of thing. So that's right. Verner has how many runs? 4, 5?
6 or 7, I believe.
6 or 7 runs. They have a larger geographic area. They go all the way to Dokies. And then Sturgeon is many more lane kilometers than
Right.
all of them.
And all of the, the parking.
Sidewalks,
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I'm not too sure if this would have to do with this policy, but I was just wondering if we would include something in here where that work with our new bylaw officer for areas where there's a car parked on the side of the road. Will this policy kind of cover where our staff can work with said bylaw officer to
That would
I
be
was kind of looking through there quickly, but,
through you, Mr. Chair. That would be part of our traffic and parking bylaw.
okay.
Yeah, it's in there, yeah. We're actually going to be notifying our residents very soon that this is coming and to make arrangements to find adequate parking for winter months.
Thank you. And yeah, I hope this year we don't have like last year where we had those heavy snowfalls, then you clean it, then heavy snowfall again. It was kind of just an odd year where no matter what, there's some times where I was angry myself. I couldn't get out of my driveway, but you know, that's just how nature is sometimes. And so hopefully this year we don't hit that and everything's okay.
So you, Mr. Chair, just so that the public knows too, that's very frustrating on Public Works because when the roads haven't frozen and you get that much snow, it makes it that much more difficult for them to be able to go and clear that, right?
Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. Section 6, winter maintenance of sidewalks.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to go through each section so that we can comment. Because
I'm sorry, I'm not following,
Yeah.
clearly I'm not
Because it's a
following
lot of
directions
focus.
today.
I think some people should have comments in every section.
Okay.
That way it's going to be easier so we don't jump around everywhere. Okay, so for section 1,
I'm not sure. I'm just brought up Dokis. Just a question. Would we check into it if we can make a deal with the French River for the snow, the same as the greater in the summer?
Yeah, that's not in the policy, Conseiller Pellerin, so we'll get through the policy and maybe you can send the question to me or to Monsieur Lumion or Monsieur Bacot, and then you can get your answer on that. Just want to make sure we get through the policy tonight because
Okay.
winter's coming and it's important that we get this out to the residents as soon as possible. Okay? We'll go to section 2, which is snow clearing level of service. So I'll just want to open it up to see if anybody has any questions in regards to that section.
Thank you,
Yeah,
through you,
Nicole.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I was just wondering, is there a master list of what every road is classed as? Or we assume that most of them are 5?
So we will be attaching a list of roads with the corresponding class.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're just in the midst of finishing up our roads needs study. So we'll have that list shortly.
Perfect, thank you.
So that you see?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How do you identify the amount of snow on the road? I mean, our region is very wide, so are you dispatching one area sooner than the others?
So we have what's called as representative patrolling. So each area will have a specific road that they use as a kind of a guideline because it would be impossible for the patrolmen to go out and check every road. So they do have specific roads that they check. Like they'll go out and do a tour and probably hit, River Valley and then Deer and then back to Field. I would assume we could add those representative roads in the policy if it's council's wish. But currently it's up to the patrolman to decide which roads are. And they do monitor weather. So sometimes we won't have a drop of snow in River Valley and we're going to have a ton of snow in Dokis. So they do weather monitor. That's a requirement as well.
And I had just a second follow-up question. Would you accept if residents provide you with the depth of snow in their area? Would that be of help?
Absolutely. Yeah, they could call 2250 and advise that, yes, this is the accumulation in this area. Absolutely.
Just if it's after hours, it'd be 1170, just so you know, okay? If it's a night thing, they should call 1170 and then the fire
emergency.
dispatcher would then provide the information to the local area foreman who would investigate.
Perfect. Any other questions for item number 2 for snow clearing? We're good. Item number 3, sanding and salting. And just so you know, for the table number 2, I asked the same question as you, Councillor Nichols, see if we can have the roads identified so that we know what's the response time also. Policy. Any other questions for icy roads response over 11? Good. Okay, item number 3, winding back of snowbanks. Item number 4, so I'll open it up. Anybody has any questions? No questions? I actually had one. And I've experienced this as chairman of Public Works. I got a few phone calls last year in regards to can the municipality come and cut the snowbank at the road because I can't see when I'm getting on the road. So I actually requested if we can get some language in there to Monsieur Guignard that the municipality is not in charge of the snowbanks. So it is the owner or whoever's responsible for removing the snow. And we'll actually put in there that they can put the snow from the road in the front lawn and not on the snowbank to minimize the height of the snowbank, or they can maybe put it in the rear of their yard if they don't have enough place in the front yard. And that will eliminate most of the question I mostly got last year that I can't get on my driveway because I'm too scared the snowbank's too high. Monsieur Miel did respond to me in regards, they do remove snowbanks, but it's mainly in the town area where there's foot traffic, customers in the business area. They don't go around the whole town. If it is severe, they will remove some. Sometimes there's not enough place to put that snow because the snowbanks are too high. But most of the time in residential area, doesn't happen often, Monsieur Guignard, that we actually need in residential area to remove snowbanks, right?
ICI primarily, which is institutional, commercial, industrial, which we, Highway 64 will sometimes transfer the bank over.
Yeah.
But mostly school and business areas. So some private property driveways will have coincidental removed, right? But and then you'll sometimes get, well, you removed it on this street, why not this street? We get that a lot. So that's our level of service currently is what we want to say what we do and do what we say.
Any questions on snowbank removals?
No, just.
Yep.
Through you, just to follow up to what you were mentioning, is I've seen a lot of residents on one street, they band together and they kind of get some snow removal right to lower those banks. So that's a suggestion. I know some people do that on my street. They might get 2 or 3 owners at once to try and lower the snow banks. So just a suggestion for that.
Okay, thank you. We'll consider your thought.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yep, go ahead, Councilor Russell.
Just curious if it fits in here or if it fits in anywhere, but I noticed last winter, some businesses along the highway have large snowbanks. And sometimes it does impede your vision when you're stopping to turn on to the highway or left or right. Is that, I know it's private property, so it's a private business. Does that belong in here? Or is that something we can work with businesses to? There's a couple of spots.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I don't think it belongs in our level service policy, but it's definitely something that the municipality, we wouldn't just let it, we'd probably communicate with the business owner and say, you're impeding sight lines at this intersection, please remove your snowbank. Do it that way.
Any other questions? Good.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Dave.
Okay, thank you. Now that we have declared the property at Coursol Road surplus, where do you remove snow to at this point? Like, where's your dumping location for Sturgeon Falls?
In behind the Comfort Inn,
Okay.
we had there's a massive block. It doesn't, we don't own the property, but we do a 1-year lease and it's,
Okay.
that's where we store.
Perfect. Item number 5 for snow removal. Any questions or comments for that section? Item number 6, winter maintenance sidewalks. And then I had a few questions. I know, Monsieur Vigneault, if you want to explain this, the sidewalk snow removal, so that all the councillors understand, because I did have a question on that item. Just explain just how actually it works, like
Right, okay.
snow from the sidewalks.
So typically in the same deployment, at times if we have equipment that's down or we're short of staff, then there may be some delays in clearing the sidewalks, but they are typically done in the same deployment. Unless the guys are at their maximum hours of service, then it would be done the following day. But I would say 90% of the time, it's done on the same deployment as the roads are done.
I just want to make a comment prior to on the snowbank removal downtown. Because I think there's some expectation that we remove those snowbanks in the downtown. Our municipality, we have the machinery now that makes it easier, and we probably do it 10 times more than some of our neighboring municipalities. But I think it's important for people to know that if there's multiple snow events, the public works crews under Sean their primary responsibilities are to clear the sidewalks and the roads, and then they need to have their time off. So the only time they're going to be able to remove those snowbanks is when there's a lull in winter events, and they're able to, and that's why it said that. But I think it's important for the public to know if those banks are not being removed for a while, it's not because of a lack of wanting to. It's because of the fact that if you see a lot of snow like last year, all of the time in the month of December, they just don't have the ability to get to it because they're busy removing snow off roads. And I just want to make that comment while we're going through that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bumble. So item number 6, Madam Mayor, I think you raised your hand for item 6.
So our policy with sidewalks is that everywhere there is a sidewalk, the municipality takes the responsibility to clear that. Like, is there a specific route or section that is covered, or is it like, is it just the commercial or downtown sections, or is it in front of all residential properties that have a sidewalk?
So I would say the sidewalks that are used are being done because the public would call if it's not done. But I think there are some sidewalks that people just don't use, so we're not plowing those. But the public is welcome to call in if something was missed, because the guys do miss them, some. So absolutely, the public needs to call in, and then we'll deploy and get it cleared.
How does our policy compare to other municipalities? Because I've lived in several places where homeowners on individual residential properties are responsible for clearing the sidewalks in front of their own homes. This is not a job that the taxpayers subsidize. It's part of your regular responsibility as a homeowner.
Yeah, maybe Alan can.
I'm just curious because this is the first
Valid,
time, I noticed that when I moved here, and I'm like, wow, everywhere else I lived, the municipality would actually fine you if you did not clear your sidewalks.
I'd say pretty well all the municipalities in Northern Ontario are the ones that clean the sidewalks. There is some, like Timmins, that decide which sidewalks they're going to do, which sidewalks they aren't going to do, but it's well known which ones they're going to maintain. North Bay, Sudbury, Sioux, all the same. What you're talking about happens mostly in Southern Ontario. And basically there's a bylaw that says the homeowner is responsible for cleaning it. That's getting less and less because of the municipal maintenance standards. It's actually the municipality that's actually on the hook. If the person's supposed to be cleaning the sidewalk and he doesn't do it and somebody trips and falls, it's not that homeowner that gets sued, it's the municipality that gets sued. So even City of Toronto is moving to 100% going to the municipality cleaning the sidewalks or deciding not to clean them at all. But there is still a big mixture out there in Southern Ontario.
I was just curious as to why the policy was the way it was.
Any other questions for sidewalks? Good. Item number 7, icy sidewalks, sanding and salting. Do you have any questions or comments? None? Okay, move over to item number 8, winter sidewalk inspection level of service. Any questions for that item? Questions? Perfect. Item number 9, winter patrolling level of service, winter season condition. Any questions for item 9? Any questions for table 4? None?
Oh, I'll just ask a question on that.
Yep, go ahead.
Because it was kind of covered previously. So we might just want to determine whether council wants to know which roads are the patrolling road. Like, do you want that, would you like that identified as part of a section of the bylaw? I
think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Is that doable, Mr. Vignon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it absolutely is. So I guess routinely, you're going to have your representative roads, but again, weather patterns are different. Our municipality is so vast that you may get a ton of snow in one area, not the other. So those representative roads may change based on the weather pattern. So, we can definitely have something like a general guideline of roads, but they may change depending on weather patterns. So just so everybody's.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
I'll just say that if we put it in the policy, then if Public Works for whatever reasons changes the roads that they're using to patrol, then the policy would it not need to come back to be up? Like, if we identify it in the policy, I just don't want you guys to get stuck in this where it's like,
We'll put a caveat in there.
That would be a serious concern. Operations need to
yeah,
have
the
the
flex.
ability, as long as they are appropriately assessing the situation out there. I would want to leave it to the experts to ensure that it's being done right, and not assessing a road that's convenient for them and that's no longer accurate.
Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Through you again, Mr. Chair, perhaps the way to handle that is instead of having it in the policy, when you come to us and give us updates, which I'm sure we're gonna see you about this time of year every year, right? Maybe give us a verbal update on what roads you'll be using this year as your, and then I'm just worried if. Yeah, but do we put it in the policy and then it seems very rigid and it doesn't give our crews the flexibility they need to do the job well?
Mhm.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you brought it up, Madam Mayor.
I know I
You brought
did,
up
but
movement
I
on
brought
that.
it up because it was,
Yes. Is there any appetite to actually have sorry, go ahead. Mr. Vignon.
So I see no issues with adding them in our policy, but we will have a disclaimer in there saying that weather patterns may alter these representative roads. And as long as council gives us permission to do that, we're golden.
Go ahead, Mr. Councilor Russell.
Through you, Mr. Chair, even something, wordsmithing's everything, but maybe even putting in generally, these are the roads that we'd use, but we may, from time to time, need to use other routes to identify, just so that flexibility stays there. For
discretion
staff.
of, yeah.
I just wanted two other quick things. One, varying weather patterns, because it seemed like this summer it rained a lot more at the golf course. And it definitely is in play. But I just had a question too, on a more serious note. With what we use on the roads and the sidewalks with the sand and 5% salt mixture, can you give just a little bit of technical background just so people are aware? Because I don't know if this is the cause, but in years past, I think we've had some more sidewalks and roads, but it kind of gets really rough in some places. And I don't know if that's because of drainage or but if you could share just why we use that mixture.
I mean, there's, I guess, various contributing factors to concrete spalling. I'm not an expert in concrete. I won't have to be, but definitely salt will. But we also need the salt to bind the abrasives to the ice, because if if it's minus 40 and you just put sand down, it's not gonna necessarily work as well as it would with a bit of salt mixed to it. So that's Dad.
Yeah, and also the little bit of salt that's in the sand, if you don't put the salt in it, you won't be able, it'll all chunk up. So it just stops it from doing that. And the other real issue is if you tried putting just salt on sidewalks, it will work on roads, but it won't work on sidewalks, because everybody knows there's a bank on each side. It's just going to melt and goes through, and it'll just make it slipperier if you just use salt. So you got to use the sand to make the abrasive on top, so.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor Russell. Any other questions? Perfect. Any questions for item number 10, winter patrolling, night, evening, and weekend conditions? Would you have any questions on that item? Okay, move on to item number 11, which is parking lots. I'll open it up to any questions in regards to the list. Conseiller Saint-Louis?
Thank you, Councillor Goins. Through you, I'm looking at the list and I noticed that River Valley outdoor rink is there, Field outdoor rink, Laving outdoor rink, however, not the Cache Bay. But I do know that it's being done. Was it just forgotten?
It's part of the Dock Road, Teal Road.
Oh, okay.
There is a typo in there. We got to separate those out. But yeah, Teal would be part of clearing to the ring.
The ring. Thank you.
Conseiller Souni, Madame Mairesse?
This is just a list of municipal assets. Like I noticed the Legion is not here and usually we enter into an agreement. Well, council in the past has entered into an agreement every year. So this does not include the council approved agreements. This is just municipal policies or properties. I'm sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the clearing of the Legion parking lot is not a level of service that Public Works provides. It's an in-kind donation from the municipality that they pay the services to the Legion.
And Minnehaha Bay, is that on here and I'm just not seeing it?
Good catch. That was a test.
Okay.
That's probably one of our worst ones to it. It didn't make the
We
list.
tried to slide that.
Just make it a toboggan hill after. Mr. Chair, just one more question to Mr. Barbo's. Yeah. As far as the Legion goes, are there other community groups or organizations that I guess that's outside the policy, so we could ask that question later, but it would be nice to know what we should expect for asks. So what other organizations besides the Legion has council traditionally provided support with those services?
If you wish to have us provide you a report at a future meeting, or I can do that.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Okay, Madame Mairesse, any other questions? I have one question in regards to the Notre Dame de Victoire Church, which is the community hall and field. But I've noticed, and I'm not sure, but there's also the Golden Age Club and Field. I'm not sure if that's still open or that's still open. I'm just wondering why we're doing two different halls in that area, since we're already doing the Club d'Âge, which I think myself should be the main hall, I guess, for the community. I'm just wondering why we're doing a lot for the church. I don't have any answers, but I'm just curious. And I just don't understand why we're doing it.
Historical. Say historical. I typically, we shy away from providing service on assets that we do not own. That's probably a catch that council may want to discuss whether they want to continue. The Club d'Âge forms is done as part of the rink, so it's an easy catch. So we have been doing it historically, but it would be a council decision whether you wanted to continue or not.
Okay, and just to put my reasoning why I'm asking questions, we don't do any other churches, so I think we're not being equitable for this reason. So that's why I'm bringing it up. So I'll say RTC.
Yeah, is the Club d'Âge and field in the basement of the church? No?
The Knights of Columbus is in the basement of the
Okay.
church.
Thanks.
We address it now, or do we bring it back? How would we kind of have a discussion on it?
I probably put it as, through you, Mr. Chair, I probably want to bring it back as a next item for a discussion and have a resolution put as a discussion as an action item.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Calvo. That was the only question I had in regards to parking lots. If we have any questions or comments, we're good. And we'll move on to number 12, which would be private roads. So I'll open up for questions. Madam Mayor.
Anybody else wants to go first? And this might be a hard one to answer, Sean. What is the total cost approximately that we're paying to maintain private roads? Like how much time and, you know? And I'm sorry, I probably should have asked you that in advance.
I can't answer that off the cuff. I'd have to,
Have to do an analysis as to what a run costs per kilometer, assess the number of kilometers that are involved.
through you, Mr. Chair, I do have some data on the deployment. So I asked every operator to leave completely topped up and then fuel when they return so that we have an idea on how much fuel, and the number's pretty high. But and then with the hourly rate for the operator, the machine, the equipment, cost, we could put something together, I'm sure, through Elisa to kind of put a number to those roads.
Just as in continuation through you, Mr. Chair, have the 7 roads that are identified in the policy already made their application or been approved through Public Works for this year? It's an annual.
It's an annual. I think some had some minor touch-ups to do, but for the most part, they've all, yeah. I don't know
We
if
do
those
have some concerns that we're still working on some roads.
If council would like to see those numbers, would we also be able to get a number of households served on those private roads? It's just to see how much money is actually being spent there, because that's an optional service.
I believe that's easily done through our system, so we can't get the dwellings. Some of them, I don't know, it'd be a question to Ms. Craddock, whether some are seasonal or whether they're used year round or not. If they're 3-season dwellings, I don't know if that would factor into your analysis, Madam Mayor. But we certainly can get you the number of buildings or lots that have dwellings on them on those roads.
Thank you.
Any other questions for private road?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Are the private roads serviced as a part of an existing route, or are they kind of left to last because they're not municipal roads? So how are they dealt with?
So you would think that we would do them last but it would be so inefficient for us to, go back to a road. If we're doing Alouette, we're going to drive into Saint-Jean per se. If we're doing, Prangs is done on the way back from Dokis, I believe. So it's just, it's done in sequence and for obvious efficiency reasons.
Thank you.
Okay, and I guess that cost of cleaning those private roads are actually absorbed into the Public Works snow removal budget and grading, I guess, if it's a dirt road also.
Sorry, winter road maintenance is solely, through you, Mr. Chair, is solely winter maintenance. We don't do any summer maintenance.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. So we'll try to get that information and bring it back to council. Oh, go ahead, go see you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Similar to when the information we were given about the sidewalks in some municipalities, how the private owners clear it, but then the municipality would still be liable if someone got injured. On these roads, if we didn't clear them and someone got injured, would the liability fall on the municipality or would it fall on? Oh.
There's an agreement that they sign that has a waiver of liability. That's still on the liability still rests with the owners. You can always sue and it would be tested, but that was part of the agreement they signed.
Thank you.
Just on the sidewalks, just so the sidewalks are still on municipal property, right?
Thanks.
Any other questions? No? On to number 13, just cemeteries and landfills. Any questions or comments? Monsieur Vignal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to, there's an addition that was again missed. So River Valley, Verner, Kipling, Field, and Muskasong landfills are also cleared by Public Works, so we'll add those in,
Okay, so those will be added.
to the level service policy. Yeah.
Questions? Conseil RTC?
Who takes care of the Sturgeon Falls cemeteries? Or yes,
It's actually the Sturgeon Falls Cemetery is actually the church.
churches
It's
are
not a municipal
responsible.
cemetery.
Okay, so every cemetery in Sturgeon are, the church is responsible for that?
Well, for the most part, one of them is a private group, but the other is the church.
Any questions? Good. Number 14, occasional winter maintenance. Any questions, comments? Monsieur Vignal, go ahead.
One minor clarification for Dubuque Road, we actually, the turnaround is at the Hydro One access road. There's a small bridge that Hydro One used to get to the third pole line, I believe going to Crystal Falls. And on occasion, we will do from that point to 618 Dubuque. So that'll be clarified.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Conseil.
Yeah, through you. Back to the cemetery. Sorry, I just went a little quick, but when we were speaking about the cemeteries in Sturgeon being owned by churches, so they're done by the church. I noticed the Cache Bay Cemetery on Thibault Road, as requested, that's owned by the municipality. Great, thank you.
There aren't any burials in the winter to any of it, so it's not a big issue.
Okay, move on to item 15, declaration of a significant weather event. Any questions or comments to that section? Yeah, Conseil RTC.
Last winter, was there any significant weather events declared, or were they just normal snowfalls?
Mr. Chair, none to my knowledge. And the CAO, I believe, would declare one. Jay would know.
Any other questions or comments? Because that's the last section. Perfect. Thank you very much.
I just
Oh,
want to
go
add
ahead.
one little thing through you, Mr. Chair. This level of policy is, made for a consistent and sustainable level of service with the current staff levels and the current fleet that we currently have. So just really important, if we start dropping our fleet, dropping our staff, it will definitely impact it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much, Monsieur Vignal. This is going to help us to guide our taxpayers in the right directions and guide us also when we have questions in regard to answering most of the questions when snow removal is coming pretty quick in a few months, 100 days to Christmas.
Wow.
So do you want me to jump to the next, or do you want to take a break? Mayor?
Yeah, I'll take it back. We will go for break.
Okay. 'Cause I got one more item for
Yeah.
capital. You wanna
Oh,
do it
that's
now,
right.
or-
Okay,
Yeah.
so you just want to read.
It's usually at 8 o'clock though, is what the
Okay,
bylaws
Madam
says.
Clerk will read the
I need to move
resolution.
Ernest, please. It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Rivard. At approximately 8 p.m., a motion was tabled for a 10-minute recess.
Oh. Your chair. Okay, all in favor? Carried.
You tune in.
Okay, thank you and welcome back, everybody, from our short break there. We are still in Public Works Committee, going on to the second item, so I'll pass the chair back to Councilor Gandhi.
Thank you, Madam Mayoress. So we'll move on to the Public Works for the Cavalry project. So I asked Monsieur Vignon just to give us an update of where we're at. It's good to see the great work that we're doing. We do have financial issues in regards to the amount of money it's costing us to do some major projects, but I'll pass it on to Monsieur Vignon to tell us what happened and where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Start with, so this is a brief update on our capital projects for 2023 on where we are currently. We're starting with asphalt resurfacing. We had 4 areas. So the first road is Abitibi. It is complete. The second road is Bridge Street. It is complete. Eugene Road was actually a surface treatment, not hot mix asphalt, but it was deferred due to the issue with the bridge. Front Street curb lanes. Front Street curb lanes came in significantly over budget. We are proposing to retender, reaching out to more contractors to get more competitive bidding. We only received the 1 bid. So for this year, you will see probably this week, we're going to have to get some patching completed. If you've driven the curb lane of Highway 17, it's pretty bad, and we just can't, cold mix doesn't stay in there. So we'll have to hot mix patch it. So we're going to be doing that. Otherwise, in spring, we're going to end up with planes, and our guys are going to be out there daily. So we'll have to patch it in the interim and hopefully get some competitive bidding. King John to Market, the project is in the works. We are getting late in the season, so you might likely see some carryover on that segment. Montreal, Abitibi did to Bridge is complete. John Street, Clark to Coursol is ongoing, but they're restoring now, so we believe the sidewalk is complete. They were working on the curb. The industrial park, that's a water and sewer project, but it is scheduled for later this fall. There is no restoration required on that project. It is a dirt road or gravel road. Therefore, they can complete it later this fall. And we have the John Street River to King, which is started and ongoing.
Any questions by anyone so far? Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, the industrial park, you're talking about the LeBlanc Road Industrial Park?
No, this is the Toulouse. Toulouse, sorry, yes.
Thank you. And there's water and sewer being installed to that entire park on the south side of
It's a
the
segment that was, I guess, missed back in the day, so that will be.
I have one
Yeah.
question.
Go ahead. Sorry.
For the project from River to King Street on John,
Yes.
is it still the plan for that little hill to try to level that out? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. The design shows the hill lowered by 0.4, which is not a whole lot. It's a little over a foot.
Okay.
But it is significant while trying to work with the adjoining properties. So, yeah, so there were some studies made, and lowering the hill by 0.4 there will be no sightline issues, according to our consultant.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Mr. Conseiller Bellier.
Thank you, Mr. Gagné. Just one question. I'm not sure if you was figuring there a bit. The bridge on Eugene Road.
Yeah, we'll get there. That's in three from now. We'll get to all the bridges. Yep, yeah.
Good. Okay.
Moving on to patching, that's Cache Bay manhole frost tapers, the famous manholes that keep growing in Cache Bay. They started there this morning. So those will be complete by the end of the week. Asphalt restoration will be outstanding, mind you. Moving on to granular A. Alphonse is complete, Bellefeuille is complete. Dokis, first 5 kilometers is complete. Gautier is complete. La Brosse is complete. Pierre Road is complete. Canal Dutrisac to the east dead end is complete. Roberts is complete, and the Rochon is complete. Straightforward. Bridge repairs. Leclerc, the Centennial Bridge, guardrails were replaced. That's complete. Champlain Bridge, the design is complete by EXP, and we are in communications with the MTO. Lafont Road Bridge is complete. The John Street Bridge, upon further review, the contractor, so we received a quotation from the contractor. It was, again, 4 times what we had anticipated, and it is the expansion joints which are now obsolete. The contractor looked at the expansion joints, and to replace them is really expensive, but they're mentioning that the expansion joints are still okay. There's some fine tuning that they need to do, but so we'll keep monitoring the OSIMs going forward, and at some point in time we will have to replace them, but we're going to have to budget otherwise, because now we know that the current expansion joints are obsolete, so we have Eugene Road Bridge, again, it was tendered and received quotations at more than twice the budgeted amount. Therefore, that will be coming back to council at budget deliberation. West McDonald Road Bridge, we will omit the bridge and replace with 2 twin culverts to so that we don't have to deal with those SIMs, and just because of the location. So that'll be taken care of. Moving on to brushing and ditching. Dokis, the kilometers 5 to 10 is complete. Dutrisac Road and tributaries is complete. LeBlanc Road, Highway 17 Driveways Road is complete with our crews will be pulverizing LeBlanc Road, at which time we will do some final touch-ups for the drainage project. Majot de Mers Backyards is ongoing. The contractor needs to mulch, and I believe he'll be there on Thursday, just so everybody knows. And Needs Road, brushing and ditching is complete. Moving on to facilities, if nobody has any questions. Sorry, I'm good. The Sturgeon Falls garage roof repairs have been completed. The Sturgeon Falls Yard office is ongoing. The walls are up, the slab is done, and we're waiting on the to install the trusses. Planned acquisition we didn't have. The field sand dome is deferred and hopefully in perpetuity. But we have a 1-year agreement currently with Fowler to purchase our winter sand from Fowler. Sturgeon Falls, Verner, and Field Garage fire alarms have all been installed and are complete. Moving to traffic signal streetlights. So streetlight at Highway 17, we do have an email from the MTO that we are in queue to have that intersection upgraded, so to left-hand turn lane.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
LeBlanc Road is getting a left-hand turn lane? Is that what you just said?
The municipality, so it meets the threshold of a left turn lane. So I think we should probably piggyback with, if the whole intersection is going to be upgraded, we should piggyback on that. And then 539A, I did receive some correspondence from the MTO, and it currently it doesn't meet the threshold for the MTO. So they state, in determining where lighting would be beneficial on highways, lighting warrant and benefit cost assessments are performed. The factors considered in the assessment include roadway geometrics, number of lanes, lane widths, horizontal and vertical roadway alignments, traffic volumes, adjacent lighting, collision history, and cost. As a result of your request, the ministry reviewed the lighting warrants and benefit cost assessment, and it was determined that lighting is not currently warranted at this location. Therefore, the ministry will not be installing the light.
That's at 5:30.
When, Madam Mayor?
That's at 5:39 and where?
539A.
Sorry, is that not in field right before the bridge on the left?
River Valley, yep, past the fellowship.
Well, I requested that. That's from, let's say, going out to the dump landfill. There's a section where there's houses and buses. Kids take the bus and they requested lighting. Some are walking to the school, so MTO denied that request.
Currently, but I mean, we can explore other avenues. If council
Chair, I think that we need to have further discussions on that. Like, it's not, I would say that it isn't looking good. However, we've had a few recent discussions with MTO that we weren't happy with either. So I still have some work that I could be doing.
Y'all can just have maybe a clarification. Conseillère Tessier, you have requested a street light on Forget Avenue?
Yeah, I think that was discussed that, I think there's a light on the church and the school, but I don't know if there was another in between, but I didn't really go during when it was at night. So it was just a request when I was doing my canvassing.
Yeah, just so you know, like from the bridge, like once there's a street light every second hydro pole all the way past the church. And there's one on the corner. Because I just came back from camp one evening and I saw every second post has lights on there. So maybe if you can come back with more details in regards to the exact ask is, and maybe we can have that discussion at a later date.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to our fleet. I know that it's not a project, but it's just a brief update. So the grader is scheduled for delivery in the spring of 2024. Well, the water and sewer 3/4 ton pickup has been received. Our 2-ton patch truck still has no delivery date. I'm currently looking for something and that we could bring back to council, I guess, for approval. But there's no delivery date. So I'm not sure what else to do, but I have made some phone calls around and to try and kind of like we did with the 3/4 ton pickup, where if we have one that's white and not blue, we're at the point where we'll take the white one. The slide-in water tank is scheduled for delivery early October. The Werner sand screen is being fabricated and the install is scheduled for, I believe, in a week or two. And the sweeper was deferred. I also have a brief update on design. So we do have Rear Galloway who are working on a number of designs. So obviously the John Street from the bridge to all the way to King is complete. That's currently ongoing. We have King Street John to front that will be ready. It's at 70% completion. We have Ethel Michaud to Nipissing at 70% completion. We have King Street to Mackay to Market at 90% completion. We have King Street Market to John, which is complete. Sorry, that's the same section that we have Main Street Ethel to Market, 75% complete. That's in front of Franco City. We have Ethel Street, Nipissing to King, and King to Ethel Nipissing. Yeah, Nipissing to King. And then we have King Street down to Mackay to finish that entire project, that loop-in project, that water main loop project, which will also reconstruct all sidewalks. We also have Nipissing Street from Front Street all the way to the water treatment plant in two sections, in two phases, but those are 75% complete. Therefore, if we do ever get announcement of funding, we are shovel ready or will be shovel ready should we get funding, where we've gotten caught in the past.
Perfect. Also, Monsieur Gagnon, any questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Remiard, thank you very much. I'm just really, I was surprised about LeBlanc Road turning lane because I know that's something that the municipality has been advocating for since probably 2016 or 2017, if I recall correctly. So it's nice to see that the work that's been done by all staff in trying to bring that through to the ministry is finally paid off. So that's it's just really good news in the first quarter. So it's exciting. So, and I know recently Councillor St. Louis had a request at Cache Bay Road for some kind of increased safety measures at Dragon Road, back where the OPP office is. So I can't remember what exactly the ask was, but that stretch from town to through Cache Bay will be safer, and it's nice that the speed limit's gone down on that section as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other questions or comments?
No, so that's what through Mr. Chair, to answer Madam Mayor, I believe there was a petition for a set of lights at the corner in Cache Bay and Dragon Road. So I don't know if there's been any information on that from the MTO. Obviously, I will assume not, or I think we would have heard. So that's just what it was.
Thank you, questions? No? So I'd just like to thank Monsieur Lemiog and his teams, the whole public works crew. As we can see, capital projects are moving along. We'd like to do more, but unfortunately, some projects are costing way more than we had anticipated, and it's everywhere. So thank you very much, Monsieur Lemiog, to you and your team. And also on another note, since we did go to North Monettville for a council meeting, and we did listen to the concern, maybe you'd like to ask Monsieur Lemiog to put an update to the work that's been done in that area, since we are listening to residents.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. So yes, staff have knocked down the shoulders. We tried a gravel reclaimer, so we ended up doing the entire road. So the shoulders are down. We are waiting. We're going to do some spot treatment with gravel. Of course, it's not a capital plan, so it'll be through our operating budget, but we will. There are certain areas that the operators have identified as needing spot treatment. And as well, the residents had requested an enhancement to the turnaround on the end of Morley. Morley was significantly grown in, so we did get it brushed out, got the turnaround brushed out, spoke to Mr. Fryer. It is a forced road, so we would ask permission to, and he was very happy that we were building a turnaround. So we did bring in some granular material and constructed a turnaround on Morley so that the bus doesn't have to back on to East Road no longer.
Perfect. Is anything else, Mr. Lemiog?
No, those were all my.
Go ahead.
I just thank you. I believe you did miss one thing that I saw you guys did with that big culvert on Mercer Lake Road that was in the swamp. I drove by a few days later and I saw it was removed and it looks much better back to its natural habitat. So I just thought I'd add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
you, Mr. Young. Just curious, did you check about the partnering up with the French River for the grading of that road?
So we do currently have a partnership with Doquis First Nation. We did meet with their council, and we do currently have an agreement, mostly for grading. We haven't crossed the winter maintenance bridge yet, but I'm fairly confident that that partnership will be there. Absolutely.
Good, because that's gonna save on the graders. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Good. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Lignon. Back to you, Madame Mayor.
Thank you very much. And we have just one more item under our committee of the whole, and that's 5.4 under water and sewer. And for that, I will pass it to our chair, Councillor Kellery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the Werner Water Tower was scheduled to be refurbished the inside, but now I guess we got different options. So I'm gonna pass it to Mr. Correll or Mr.
You asked me, but it would go automatically to Mr. Correct.
Okay.
So basically what happened was in 2022, we did the inspection of the Werner water plant, and it was determined that it needed work on the inside and outside of the steel tank. The estimate was roughly $1 million, and it was to take care of everything, a new riser, fixing stuff for safety to go up and that sort of thing there. And it was $1 million. So this year we put in, there's $500,000 in the budget to do all the work on the inside, change the riser pipe, get inside the tank, sandblast it and repaint it with epoxy. And that was supposed to be $500,000. And the tender came in at $1 million. And next year was supposed to be the other $500,000 to do the outside of the tank. And the estimates now from the Aqua, who's leading this consulting, they figure it'll probably be another $1 million. So it'd be $2 million to do the water tower. And so we talked about putting a new glass and steel fused tank in, like we have. There's one in Sturgeon, there's two of them in North Bay. They're all over the place. Basically, there's two companies, one in England and one in the States, that actually do it with local contractors, of course. But they gave us an initial estimate of about $1 million. So I'm guessing maybe $1.5 million to do it all. And basically, we just have is a new tank that'd be good for at least 80 years, 50 years without doing anything for $1.5 million. And if we spent $2 million, you'll have a tank that's good for another 20 years. So I think it was fairly obvious that we should be looking at that. But basically what we have to do is cancel the tenders that Aqua put out right now from the three bidders, and saying, no, we're going to look at another different direction. If council agrees with that assessment, then we'd take the letter out to the people that bid and saying we're not going ahead with the project this year. And then we'd also get a price from Aqua to coordinate the design build from one of these two companies to put the glass fused on steel tank in. And we get their price. I'm guessing maybe $10,000 to do something, like for them to actually run it. Because it's a design build, it costs $15,000 for the work that they did this year on the bid so far. And we could look at if it goes through the budget next year for the $1 million or the $1.5 million, hopefully we'll have a fixed price by the time you actually get to your budget deliberations, and you can decide if you want to go ahead then on that. But I think that's the prudent way of going. It should be cheaper in the long run, and you'll have a much better product. You'll have a brand new tank. That's my recommendation, is we cancel the bids we have now and look at doing a design build for a brand new structure next year.
Thank you, Mr. Correll. Any questions? Councilor Gagné.
Mr. Correll, thanks for your report. Just one question. If we ever do pump the water from Sturgeon to Werner, do we still need that water tank for?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, basically what we'd be doing is we'd be pumping the water from Sturgeon to the Werner water treatment plant and using it as a pumping station. After that, we could add chlorine, because it takes a long time for the water to get there. Well, you have to add some chlorine, and you need to boost the pressure, so we do it there. But you always need the tank, because if you don't have the tank for fire flows or just anything goes wrong with the plant, at least you have a couple hours worth there, so at least you can do it. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to follow up this, yeah, your tank is your pressure.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Just one comment, like we're talking about $2 million. Any fundings for this? Mr. Bahu?
Well, certainly, so really the decision point right now is to cancel what is clear, not as planned. And then I think there'll be some deliberations that'll happen at council, but certainly if there is funding available that we're not prioritizing in a different manner, then certainly we'll be looking at that. When you're looking at funding sources, they typically, will give you, let you apply for one thing, right? And so we would be looking at where we're at, and if it makes sense, then certainly we would be finding some funding source to try and assist us. So I think there's going to be a discussion with myself, Mr. Correll and Ms. Strata in budget preparation, as to looking at all of these things and seeing what best way to proceed, which is the most efficient, financially viable for the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because we got the tower and the plant.
Tower, plant, the work that's done on Ethel and all of that, sewer and water work done there, and a variety of other things that, there's no shortage of need on infrastructure, we know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bahu. That's it for me. Back to Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move into the regular portion of our meeting, and this is where the clerk reads a series of resolutions. Say we vote, and we all vote. So let's start with 6.1, the consent agenda, please.
Madam Mayor, I think we need to-
No, just, do I have direction
Yes.
to do it? Yes, okay.
So instead of 500,000, you want to spend 10,000?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That doesn't have to be a resolution.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Curran.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Pellerin that the items listed, be it resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda for September the 19th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
I'll just add that in the original package, there was one missing piece, that being the minutes of the special council meeting from Thursday, September 7th. Copy of those minutes were all placed on each of your desks. Under the consent agenda as well. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. And then we'll move to new business. So
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Whereas at the meeting held on September the 5th, 2023, Council for the West Nipissing Municipality considered a proposed heat relief response plan. And whereas the heat relief response plan will provide community-wide relief to vulnerable populations during extreme heat events, be it therefore resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality adopts the heat relief response plan as presented.
okay, so this is an item we discussed in committee as a whole at our last meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the policy as it shows in your packages, as this is what we'll be approving? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Tessier and seconded by Councillor Rastoul. Whereas at the meeting held on September the 5th, 2023, Council discussed the location of the next proposed off-site council meeting. And whereas Council concurred that the October 17th, 2023 council meeting be held at the Club d'Âge d'Or in River Valley. Be it resolved that October 17th, 2023 Council and Committee of the Whole meeting be held at the Club d'Âge d'Or in River Valley.
Again, we discussed this last time. River Valley, here we come. All in favor?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Again,
Will
Councillor
it,
Tessier.
are we able to have it recorded, whether it's not live, but after?
Through you, we'd have to have a look at what their capacity is and what we're doing. So we'll have a look at trying to get as much of that as possible.
Because the open meeting rules, as long as the doors are open, people are free to attend. Of course, if, we're always limited a little by technology in some of the outer reaches of the municipality. So I know staff will be looking at the options that are available there.
And should we not be able to record it? Can anybody from the public be able to record it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Crochang and seconded by Councillor Tessier. Whereas at the meeting held on September the 5th, 2023, Council for the West Nipissing Municipality considered an offer to purchase for municipally owned land owned on Highway 64 in Field. And whereas the land described as part of Lot 13, Concession 5, being Part 1, Plan 36R 4232 in the Township of Field, now Municipality of West Nipissing, must first be declared surplus by the Corporation of Municipality of West Nipissing. Be it resolved that part of Lot 13, Concession 5, being Part 1, Plan 36R 4232 in the Township of Field, is hereby declared as surplus.
Okay. Would anybody like a refresher on this particular file? Councillor Rivard?
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. Not a pressure, but I guess I drove by and I was wondering, I know last meeting we were told that we didn't really know why one portion was retained by the municipality and the other one was retained by the MTO and the other one wasn't. Was it maybe that it was low lying and it's still considered somewhat of a flood hazard? So then it just remains within MTO, so.
Through you, Madam Chair, it's not considered in the floodplain for West Nipissing. I couldn't comment on the reason. It could be that it was vacant, and I don't know. I honestly don't know.
When I drove by, it did look like it was fairly low compared to the neighboring properties. So I'm just wondering if that would be, and then with the highway, it affects the flood hazard. Would we be looking to sell land like that?
Well, it's through you, Madam Chair. It's being purchased as a lot addition to the dwelling next to the property next door. It's not being purchased as a building lot.
Okay. All those in favor, sorry, any other questions or comments on this item? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Restrepo and seconded by Councillor Tessier. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2023-74 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-60 to regulate traffic and parking in the West Nipissing municipality be approved as presented.
I know they were highlighted. What are the changes that are?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe one of them was the addition of a stop sign at the intersection of Fort and Schmidt-Concal. And there was a change in the speed limit so that the speed limit on Canal Road from the extreme east limit all the way to the Sunbeam would be 50 kilometers an hour.
What is it otherwise?
Right now, there's a break at a couple of spots where it
goes lower.
It goes higher at one spot, so it's just to make it consistent from one to the other.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments?
Just have one question.
Councillor Restrepo.
For education through you, Madam Mayor. When we have community safety zones, is that in here or is that separate, just as their own?
I'm not sure. I'd have to get back to you, but I don't know if we still have community safety zone. I know we used to in Ward 4 by the schools. I don't know where it exists. I'd have to look into it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Oh, sorry, it's my turn. Yeah, that was great. I am actually not going to give a mayor's report today because I don't have them. It's been a busy week, but our next meeting is on October 3rd. October 3rd, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Sorry, Councillor St. Louis.
Just to refresh your memory, I believe it was.
Yes, I do have something.
Thank you.
Would you?
No, go ahead.
I'm not ready. I'm gonna pass it to Councillor St. Louis for a little bit of community news.
So I spoke to Madam Mayor, and it's just to make the municipality aware that one of the Anishinaabe police officers, Chantal Larocque, will be singing the national anthem at the Toronto Blue Jays game, the last game actually of the season, on September 30th. And she will sing it in all three, French, English, and Anishinaabe. It is Anishinaabe or Ojibwe, sorry. My apologies. So just if anybody or has the opportunity to please watch or record and send her your congratulations.
That is great news. So congratulations from all the council. I had the honor of hearing her sing at the Sting tournament earlier in the year. And it was a real treat to hear the anthem in all three languages. And it's a real honor to have our community members going down, to represent. And it's awesome news. Great news. So thank you. And with that,
It is moved by Counselor Teissier and seconded by Counselor Cochrane. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2023-76, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 19th day of September, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
all those in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Counselor Restool and seconded by Counselor Teissier. Be it resolved that the meeting of council held on September 19th, 2023, be adjourned.
All in favor?